first. Don't make any noise. Good girl. It's fine. Hello, everyone. So we are working on today's live stream. I'm almost ready. It never ends, but there's always something to do. And I had this idea, and then, of course, it stole a bunch of time. And now I'm like, oh, my goodness, I'm late, like always. Turn this TV, see if I can get this projected up there. We're trying out something different today. So let's see. Okay, cool. That worked. I like that. Elmer, you are first. Good job. I might just hide this way over here. Oh, it changed the aspect ratio of my entire screen. Okay. I can make that work, I think. Let me shrink this because I don't need to see myself. I need to see y'all's comments. This one's going to be a bit loose, guys. It's going to be like it's a truly live stream. So hopefully you will be a little more patient with me. The name of this topic is patience. So, I mean, that works in my favor, I believe. So right now, I'm going to switch to a different camera, I think. Okay. So I am not well lit because when I tested this, I was standing 6 feet that way and it was perfect lighting. But because the lights are right here and I'm standing under them, so it makes my face dark. And I apologize for that. This table is taller than the one behind me, but I have a second camera here. Nope, that's just the webcam. I've got this one here, which is my iPhone that follows me. It's called Center Stage. And it's working with the streaming software. So I can actually show you Jack. So I thought we could use this and maybe I could kind of walk you around the studio a little bit. But I wanted to show you something first. Hi, baby. She's all excited now. She got some attention. So, you mean the last 3 years weren't live? Yeah, they were live. You're right, you're right. This one's a little bit more live because I wanted to do some things on screen with you. And it's going to take some time to do it. So maybe we could start with that. How about if I edit 2 pictures while we're here live? I will load up. I need to uninstall. I need to turn off some programs here, which I should have done before I hit start. But we're going to go ahead and force quit a few things here. And that way, hopefully we'll have enough RAM to do the stream and keep things going smoothly. Close that. Oh my God, I have so many things open. It's ridiculous. And then today I was shaving and my blade just decided to slice my face 3 different places. I'm like, oh, good timing. I like that. So I was trying to stop bleeding before I got on camera. And I think we'll leave Chrome open for now. All right, I know it uses a lot of memory, but what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna open up Lightroom. I wish I could share my desktop a little bit differently than what I'm doing. Like, in other words, I'd like to have the Ecamm software up there, and I'd like to have this be my desktop. But instead, it's just mirroring it exactly. So where is Lightroom? Come on, where are you? Is it hiding? Nope, it's not hiding. It just hasn't appeared yet for whatever reason. Oh, you know what? I changed my operating system to something newer. I might not be able to pull this off. Oh, here we go. Because I did the latest iOS to be able to do the iPad change, the iPhone change. Let's see. Has to upgrade something. Okay, let's do this while we're killing some time here, and I will, because I wanted to, well, here it goes. What I wanted to do, I want to talk about patience, because a lot of times in this hobby, we are so adamant that things look good now. We don't like how things are dirty. We don't like how things are sitting there stagnant, and we're like, why is this taking so long? And life takes a long time. I mean, when you make a baby, it takes 9 months before you see it, right? 9 months! Think about that! And then you finally see it. And then you spend 20 years making that kid into an adult. And so with our reef tanks, it's not quite as bad, but there are going to be months of frustration and waiting, and then and then you start planting things, then you start waiting for it to grow. So I want to talk about this patience with you guys. And now I can finally get to my software. It's keeping all my windows in front of me. It's irritating me. Hang on, I have an idea. I think I can do this. There was a way where you could like make everything just go away temporarily. Minimize, no. Hide main window controls? Don't think that was it. Instead of bring all to front, how about bring all to rear? That would be awesome. Oh, well, whatever. Jason's asking if I've tested my water. No, I've been busy trying to get this ready for you guys and failing. Okay, I'll shrink this down a little bit so I can work with it. What I wanted to do, I'm just going to close these windows. I'm going to close everything except for the chat box because I need to see what you guys are seeing. And I'm about to put this on the screen for you. I just need to move some things out of my way so I can see. So we are going to, if this will play nicely, change this to, there we go, we're in Lightroom. And then we are going to go to Library, hopefully, and import. I should have closed, you know what, I'm going to close Chrome. I know it's stealing tons of RAM. Okay, there we go. And then we are going to go to, yeah, I remember it does this. Not a big fan of it, but whatever. We're going to grab these two things. We're going to import them. Okay, so here's our first picture. And we're going to go ahead and crop it. Bring this down. Bring this up. There's Mickey Mouse's ear. Can't do anything about that. Come over here and we're going to go. This is what I do every single time I edit a picture. So if it's going fast, it's because I'm trying to do it fast for you. But you can kind of just like see what I'm doing here. So we're going to increase some sharpening. I'm happy with the colors overall. I don't really see any reason to change anything. Bring down some highlights so it's a little bit more visible. Increase some white. Add some black. Let's see if we need any shadows. Okay, we'll remove some shadow. We'll add a little texture. We'll add a little clarity. We'll add a little dehaze. And let's take a look at before. See, not much change. Looks better. All right, then we're going to hit save. And it's going to be FTS 10, 29, 21, 22. And our size is 1200. Perfect. There's that one. And then I want to do this other one right quick. So this one here looks a little worse. May not even be in focus properly. I don't know. We'll find out in a minute. And we're going to go ahead and can't decide. I kind of like it the way it is, actually. Maybe trim off some of this stuff, get the focus on that. We'll come over here and we'll reduce the highlights so the green doesn't look so blown out. We're going to take away all the highlights. Add some shadow, add a little bit of white, bring in some black, and let's kind of do that a little bit. Bring this up a little bit. You're just like, what are we waiting for? What is he doing? Why is he doing this? I'll explain in a second. And all that looks done. I didn't do the sharpening. Let's do sharpening. And we'll change our radius again like I always do. And I'm not going to worry about speckles, or dehazing. The color looks right to me. I mean, I'm actually happy with it. I don't need to actually make any adjustments here at all. So, and then we'll add a little bit of dehaze, a little bit of clarity, a little bit of texture. And we will save this one as Slimer 2022. Export. All right, got it. That's what I need to do. So we'll close this. We'll come back to our camera. Skip. Let's come back to camera. That's not the right camera. How about this one? And what I want to do now, I've got this folder. You'd think my computer was working super duper hard. I want this up. Here we go. Finally, jeez. And we're going to grab... Oh, somebody said send them my picture. Busy! Sorry. Grab this and this. Copy. I want to put it inside this one. Paste. And then we're going to start off with this, first of all. I think you guys have seen this on social media, but we're going to start with this one because it's a nice comparison picture. I'm going to put it right over my face. So, let's see, are we getting... I feel like we're getting half the picture. Oh, that's... That's what we just shot. My mistake, wrong one. This one is what I wanted to show you. So this one here was a year ago. And then whenever I took this picture, August, so September, October, 2 months ago. And you can see the difference in growth from, for example, you've got the little Slimer right here, and then you can see up here, it's a nice big Slimer. You've got some Digi right here that became a bigger Digi. You know, the hammer even looks larger to me. I think it has grown more. This chalice has grown bigger right here. This scrolling pavona has grown bigger and downward, interestingly. So you can see some of the change. Same with the Shadowcaster. It was just a few branches, and now it's starting to, I mean, it's a long way from full, but it's definitely filling in a better way. So that is a good indicator of what's going on with your tank. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because so often when we are looking at our tanks, we sit there and think nothing's changed. If you are taking pictures monthly, you can, I mean, even if you're sharing them on social media, you'll get these notifications like on Facebook, you know, on this day, or, you know, memories, and you open it up and it's like this day, last year, the year before that. Anyway, you can kind of see where things were and where they are today by looking at your tank. You're like, oh, it looks better. I didn't realize that. And sometimes inside Club Milo's Reef, we see that. And I'm very happy when we see that. We see people post pictures of maybe a tank with just rock, and then they show it with corals. Or others plant some corals and take a picture, and then they show it a year later, and it's filling in nicely. And, you know, I appreciate when people do that. When they take the time to show off their system and show where it's going instead of just today's picture, that's really important because we are impatient. We want things now, and it's not going to get any better. So if I can encourage you to take pictures of your tank with your phone and, you know, somehow save them or email them to yourself or whatever, so you have like folders somewhere to where you can easily access these later and do some comparisons, that'll be really ideal. So I wanted to show you, let me find some older pictures. Okay, I'm going to start with this depressing picture right here. This one right here is a beautiful coral that I had a year ago. And now I don't have any at all. It's gone. It's gone. I was like, ah. So that does happen. And that is something you have to acknowledge, that it will not always work in your favor. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes there's something not right with your water column. And you're going to need to go ahead and accept that you're not going to have success with every coral. And that's really important in the patience game, is also the understanding every single thing you buy isn't necessarily guaranteed to grow in your tank. It may not do well in your tank at all this year. But maybe 2 years from now, you try that same coral again, and suddenly this time it takes. You don't know why. You don't know it's different. Is it that the tank's more mature? Is it that your water quality is better? Is it that something in the water that irritated the last one no longer exists? Is it you had a certain type of cleanup crew that was devouring it where it's gone now, and so when you put in this new thing, it doesn't get attacked by that same creature, which might be an urchin or it could be a hermit crab or whatever it is that caused some chaos back then. So if you get really, really frustrated and you're like, oh my God, I really want this green, let's just say Montipora digitata. You're like, you love Montipora, but you have Montipora eating flatworms. Well, obviously you can't have both. You can't have the Montipora and the flatworms because the flatworms will eat the Montipora until there's no Montipora left. And then you're supposed to leave the tank Montipora free. I was going to say fallow. Montipora free for, I don't know, 9 months, a year, to make sure every one of those flatworms dies off of starvation. Then when you put a new one in, it's not attacked and it will grow. So there was a friend of mine that didn't live far from me. He had a whole tank full of Montes. It was beautiful. And he got those stupid Montipora eating nudibranchs They devoured all of his coral, made him super sad, and he ended up pulling out everything out of the tank that was Montipore related, scraped it all off the rock if needed, chiseled it away. Whatever was remaining, the flatworms ate and killed off too. And then when it was completely done, they went ahead and they died off. And it was like 2 years later, he just got some new Monty and planted it, and the tank became beautiful again. So that year was not a good year to have Monty, but it doesn't mean you can never have it. So don't be frustrated to the point where you think you can never do something. Let's see. This next picture I want to show you. Okay, this is a good one. This is a good story compared to the last one. This one here is a Stylophora. It's a rainbow Stylophora. And this was it a year ago. Now, let me find you today's picture. Oh, here we go. I found it. It's going to be a different coloration though, because I took it during blue lighting, so don't judge me too hard. So here is that same coral. I'm going to put it on top of my face. A year later. So you have this really, you have 3 lobes of this Stylophora right here. And then there's another one here in the background too. So we can't, I'm not cheating. I have both. And I did plant them side by side. I thought they were 2 different looks, but in the end, they all look identical. So maybe they were the same type after all. But it has filled in. There's way more lobes than 3. I mean, even if this was the epicenter at one point, you've got all this happening back here and all this down here. And the second colony would be right here. And of course, it's spread out here and along the top. So you can see the growth pattern here that's happened after a year's time. All right, let's get those off the screen. See what else I got for you. Because I did this with quite a few. Oh, I don't know if I have the new one of this. Dang it. Oh, here's a good one. This was a year ago. I'm going to leave it on the screen, kind of big. And it's a cool looking coral. I'm talking about the bigger one, not the little scrolling pavona. So this one here, I don't even know what it is. I've had people debate it with me. I mean, not debate, but, like guess with me. I would say it's not Hawkins echinata, even though that is what everyone always leans into first. And then, let's see if I can find the other one. It's going to take me a second. See, if I'd prepared properly, everything would be ready for you. Where are you? You're here somewhere because I saw you. Where is it? We might have to use this other picture. It's not in this folder for some reason. All right, let me go get it because it's on this same machine, fortunately. So I just need to open up another Finder window. And we'll go here, look inside here. Can move the chat over so I can see what I'm doing. Not that one, all right. Oh, I have that though. That's cool. That'll come in handy. Don't you hate it when you can't find a certain coral picture? I sound like a coral vendor. I'm still looking. Here, while you're waiting. Well, now I'm going to shrink this down so it's ready. Put it right there. Still looking. Told you this would be kind of a live episode. I've been taking a lot of pictures of Caitlin's reef, and they're all mixed in with my other ones. Yeah, it just didn't copy over when I grabbed it. Darn it. All right, keep going backwards in time. It won't be a year apart anymore, but it'll be closer to a year. I know I just took this picture too. That's what irritates me. How about this folder? I did want this, so I'm going to grab and put it right here. Ah, dragged to my desktop. Oh well, it's fine. This is my life, by the way. Looking for things on my computer, like, where is it? I had it. It's not very technical, it's just hiding. It could be anywhere. Oh, I think this is it. I found it, y'all. Okay, so here is that same coral a year later, basically. So you see I'm put it here, and I'll take this one and we'll make it big again. We'll go like this. So you can kind of see them side by side. Now the coloration has changed too. There was a lot more like white in here, which I thought was really cool looking. And that kind of faded away, and now we've got this look in here. But it's a really nice coral. I just don't know what it is. But that's what a year's growth is, you know, side by side. And I just wanted to show you that. I thought that would be interesting. So there's the smaller one, and of course here's the larger one. Got to kind of get them the same scale. But I can't. I mean, this would be the right scale. Okay, so that's that one. Boy, that took me way too long to get to that point. Terrible. Then I've got, because I want to show you, because it's like we plant a frag, it's like 1 inch. We're like, well, where's the big one? How about this little guy here? This one here is a red dragon, acropora. It's very brittle, very frail, and it's a very fast grower, okay? And I like it a lot. And I put it on this was actually next to the green slimer. And I believe right here in the front, you might see a little bit of the slimer branches possibly, or maybe a different acro, maybe the T-Rex. But I had to move it because it was getting crowded by the other corals growing so fast and so quickly that I went ahead and I moved it to a new spot. So I'm gonna find you that picture now. I told you I wanted to be more prepared. See, this is what happens when you have a great idea. Ah, stupid thing. This is a failure of an idea, if you ask me. I have failed you. I apologize. It wasn't there. Let me see if I have it in here, maybe. Maybe we'll get lucky. Here we go. We can use this. So this one here was taken 2 months ago. And you can see how much larger it is in comparison. And it's not even secure on the rock. It actually moves a little bit. But it's staying pretty stable and everything's growing. And I want to mention here, while I got this open, if you look at this Montipora on the right, this one came from my friend Ryan. And the base of it, down here, it's deep red. But this up here was kind of pale, almost like a fish had been picking at it and nipping at it. And it was really frustrating until I started dosing all my trace elements for 2 months straight. And now that coral looks vastly different. It looks so much better. And I'm going to show you that because I think I had that a second ago. Yep, here it is. So I'll go ahead and close this up. I'm going to move it over here next to me. I'm just going to have a collage of pictures next to my face. And if I do this, I can actually still be in the frame slightly, even though I'm a little dark. So here is that coral now. Isn't that beautiful? It's polyped out beautifully. It's got lots of nice colors. It's got greens and blues and red polyps. And I believe this is not forest fire digi. I think this is bubblegum maybe. But either way, this and this now look like the same coral, which for the longest time they did not. And that was driving me crazy, that it wouldn't look right. So I was very happy to see an improvement there. Now, I did have another one that I saw a second ago that I thought would be a good one. So this one here is a pearlberry coral. It's a coral that I wanted forever. I mean, I really wanted this coral for the longest time. And it has been growing in beautifully. So I just a second ago dragged it onto my desktop so I'd have it handy. So I'll shrink this down. And then we'll put this one on the screen. Look at the difference. Look at the difference there. I mean, it is vastly larger. And the coloration is incredible. And it's starting to get little bits of green hue in the branching now, or it was more of a purplish color to me for the longest time. But it's got a little bit of a green to it, but not like a crazy green like a green slimer. Okay, so I want to show you that. So that took a year. So if you're being impatient, stop being impatient. Let's see, this one here. No, it's not the right shot. This one here, it says 2021, but I don't believe, oh, I see what it's doing. It named itself differently. So, I feel like when I made when I copied everything over, it didn't copy completely. But this is kind of interesting. So this coral here, that's the green slimer we were this is not the one we edited together. But this green slimer, I took this picture just before MACNA. It's not even in focus. And you can see the growth tip here is about to burst out. So that was just under 2 months ago, about 7 weeks ago. So I'm going to go ahead and put this right here. And then we're going to grab the picture from today that we edited. And you can, I mean, here we go side by side. I mean, these are literally only apart by 7 weeks. And look at the growth that's happened here, especially in this area right here. I mean, that's the most obvious part. This coral has been doing phenomenally well in my tank. I'm very happy with that. I wish that all corals grew this fast and looked this good. So someone mentioned on last week's live stream that these corals look like they're ready to just break off at the base, and I totally agree, and they have been kind of. There's actually a twig at the bottom that broke loose. I actually think the urchins are chewing on them and weakening their core. So, all right, what else do we have? I'll show you stuff I don't have anymore. How about that? So I showed you some good stuff. This one here, beautiful coral, didn't make it. I really liked it. It was Aqua SD's orange sherbet or something like that. It's a Acropora Miliopora. And this thing turned bright orange, like crazy bright, like a Setosa. And I couldn't understand why. And the growth did not grow correctly. Like the tips got longer, but there was no hairs and no polyps. And I was like, what is it doing? And it just wouldn't do anything. And it just finally just fizzled out. So that was a bummer. And so I don't have a 1 year later picture to show you. This one, yes, this one is a good one to show you. So this one here is from Dwayne. Now, the main coral is this. There's the frag plug right there where I'm moving my mouse. This in the background is a totally different acro. It's down below it and underneath it, and it's also much bigger too. But I want you to keep track of that coral. Okay, you got it? It's got what? 1, 2, 3, I'm going to say 4 to 5 branches. There's one in the back there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one here on the tip coming upwards. Let's call it 6. All right, that was a year ago. And then where are you? You're hiding. Here it is. Here it is recently. Ta-da! Isn't that cool? Look how much that grew. That's crazy. That is the same coral, because if you look underneath in this spot right here where my mouse is, this is that acro right there. So same thing. And then this is another digitata. It's doing, look at the color on it. It's perfect. It's so pretty. That one was also kind of retracted like the other one. It didn't look right for a while, but all the essential elements I put in, or the trace elements, I keep saying essential, the trace elements I put in corrected what was lacking in the water column and made things better for the tank. So this is a really good comparison with a side-by-side of 1 year's time. And that's clearly a very fast-growing Acropora. So if you are stressing your stuff isn't growing fast enough, here, I'm going to do this. Hello. If you're stressing, don't. But I wanted to show you that, you know, because that's really cool. And let's see if I have anything else that's worth showing. And then we'll get into some of my tricks of patience. I did want to show you, finally, you saw me edit it, but here is the reef today. This is literally today. And I took this picture and then I came outside into the studio and, you know, loaded it into the camera. And you can see, this is that acro we were just talking about that grew so much in the last year. Underneath it is the little green one I mentioned. In the back is the red one that we saw, the red dragon. There's that digitata looking thing. Here's the other digitata here. Here's that big unknown, possibly echinata that is a mystery. So anyway, that's kind of the difference. And like I showed you the other picture where you saw the before. Actually, I can probably fling that on here and kind of rearrange my screen a little bit. If we do this, and what if we put this on the bottom and put this guy? Will it go on top? Of course not. Let's see, let me do this. Let me close this one again. And then we'll do this. There's a crazy lag on this machine today. Not used to this lag. Probably because I'm sharing the screen with the iPhone, maybe. But if you ignore the number 315 days later and just think of it as a year ago, that's the difference between the two tanks. So hopefully you can appreciate that. It's grown in a lot. It's done a lot in the last year. So if you're frustrated with your tank, wait a year. Okay. I think that's enough of that part. Let's switch cameras so I can figure out how to do that again. Close it. I don't need that. Let's see. There we go. Ha! All right, so I am standing in the studio. The studio is completed. Everything's done. There's lights on the ceiling. I had such problems with finding lighting that would work in this building that I was happy with. And there are 3 on the ceiling above me. And they are dimmable, which is good, as are the lights behind me here in this area. So I wanted to kind of give you a tour. We're going to walk around the room a little bit. Now I'm going to be looking at the television as I walk around so I can see what you're seeing, because I will not be able to, there's no screen on my camera. Like when I'm doing this, sharing with the iPhone, I've got this in front of me, but the backside, let me do this. I'll change to camera 1. See, there's nothing there. I can't see what's happening. I literally just have to point it and walk around. So we're gonna do that. So I'll switch back to this one. And this is y'all. That's the TV that is keeping me entertained when I'm working. This is the box area where I pack, you know, where all the things are shipped. Here's Jack on the table. Jack, say hi. Jack, say hi. Good girl. You're such a good girl. Everything is off the floor, which is good because actually a little bit of rainwater got in because I need them to work on the outside of the building and put some tile on the sidewalk. But I intentionally did this so nothing would get ruined. I got this racking. These are actually designed to have poles and you have like 5 shelves stacked upward. But instead what I did was I just said, I'll just spend the money for this because this is plastic. It's forever. And it keeps everything nice and safe and dry. And even if water gets under there, it evaporates because it's vented. So it works out really well. These are the new stands that I built recently. That's one of them. This one I had in my living room forever. You guys might be familiar with it from building sumps. This is my other one that I built. I've got this very nice floor that will last forever. And the doors coming in. Here are all the badges that I've been, from all the shows I've been to over the last 20 years. So I don't know how many are on the wall there, but here are 35 more that I found because I'm a pack rat and I save everything. So I was here beforehand, we were trying to figure out where was the oldest one. Like, where's 2002? And I think the oldest we could find was like 2007. But this one here is Des Moines, Macna, Des Moines, Iowa. And this was sponsored by Two Little Fishies. And this badge looks similar, but it was sponsored by Marine Geek. And this one here was Macna 2010. And here I was a guest speaker somewhere. This was Next Wave 2007. Here's Macna 2012. Here was the Boston area reefers, where I was speaking in 2009. Here is another Macna. This is Washington, D.C. And then this is funny. So it says Macna 20 on it. It says Atlanta. But underneath it says 1899. That's how long ago this was. That's back when I was running Milo's Reef and Reefcast and Reef Keeping Magazine. I was the editor. And then here's one of the Coral Farmers Markets. This one here is from 2008. And then this Coral Farmers Market is from 2009. Here's another Macna. This is Macna 19. So all these are going to go up on the wall. Here's a Next Wave event that we did. And all that needs to hang up there too. And then I was looking at the coasters that I've been giving to customers. These are the 5 that I've printed thus far. So every time I print coasters, I print, like 500 or so, and I give them what every order gets one of these in there. And so we're up to 5 at this point. So if you're collecting, this is what you're trying to collect. Then at some point here, this area will become a love seat. So Jack has a nice place to lay down when she's waiting. And then over here is the shop area where all the goodies are. And I've got lots of goodies here on the pegboard. From Blue Life, from VCA, from Two Little Fishies to get metals out of your water. There's parts for the Versa pump. There's feeding magnets. There's magnifiers for the glass, to look at your critters. Here are TDS meters, scrapers from Flipper that use a credit card to clean all of your glass and acrylic. All kinds of sensors for the Neptune system, calibration solutions, cleaning magnets for the glass. There's some Ecotech glue and some foam guards. So there's a bunch of goodies there. I have I'm a Reefer t-shirts in stock, and I also have a lot that gets shipped out directly to the customer based on size. Here is the Neptune gear. These are the latest Apexes, the Apex Pro, and then the Apex or the AC3. So those are in stock now, as well as the 832s. I have biopellets in stock. I have F-Aptasia in stock. I've got the ATK as well as the FMK. This is a top-off kit, and this is a fluid monitoring kit. There is Nori up here. There's Dry Rock Starter for when you're trying to start a tank with just dry rock or dry sand. This kit will get you cycled in about 8 days flat and helps you avoid the ugly cycle. I've got Benary food and Goniopora food. I've got the SPS kit made for the Apex to help make the salinity probe stay nice and stable. I've got these, they need to go. These are heater controllers from Cobalt. They don't exist anymore, and I still have a few in stock. This is aquascaping putty. I use this to glue my rock together and glue corals onto the rock. Here's some coral dip called Revive from Two Little Fishies and some larger coral glue from Ecotech. Here's Live Rock Enhance, and this is the magnesium pronto I use for my tank, keep magnesium up. Here's Reef Enhance, which is a type of food to get you more pods in your aquarium. AquaPower, Phosban L, which removes phosphate. Here are a bunch of cobalt heaters. And I've got the Trident calibration solutions, and all the Prodibio line is right here. And then I have all the different coral issues. These are on my website, so if you see it on the website, I have it. And if you don't see it on the website, it's gone. I've put a few of the acrylic things I build, but you can't even see them because they're clear. So this is a bubble tower that goes in the corner of a sump. This right here is a power brick holder. This is one of those gizmos I made to put under a Vortec MP60 to hold the motor up on the outside when you want to remove the inside. Here are a couple of skimmer stands. And then we've got our coffee mugs and drinking glasses. I have a bunch of products from Brightwell. So you've got Restore, the Microbacter 7. This is a boost of pH. This is to add phosphates. This is Microbacteria, or MB Clean is what they call it. Microbacter Clean. And this is Nitrate to add nitrate. This is to remove nitrate. Should these be side by side? Isn't that bad? And then we've got a few smaller bottles, and this is a calibration solution by Two Little Fishies. So this is 35 ppt if you're verifying your refractometer. Couple of different top-off kits, refractometers, Salifert test kits, Elos test kits, cooling fans, the Smart Stir that I recommend to everyone to do your tests with, a couple of the coral lens viewers that clip on your phone to filter out the blue, some potassium test kits are finally in stock. Here's a larger cleaning magnet for glass that's 3/4 inch thick. I have some Nero 3 and Nero 5 pumps. The TDS meters and the safety stop I always recommend. DI filters, carbon filters, sediment filters for my RODI systems, and this will fit almost anybody's. I've got different Kimura pumps here. The RMS mounts for the Radions. An older Radion is still here in stock. This is the Gen 4 XR15. Need to sell that. I've got MP40s. I've got Reef Links. Some people like those still. I've got Versa pumps. I've got Vector pumps. And then I've got some other things up in there. I've got lots of filter socks because people like to use those. So that kind of gives you a tour of the building. There's my new lights. They came out good. And this is where I work. So now you kind of have an idea what it's like and what I'm doing. I'm just grooming my dog here every day. But and this is an order going to a customer on Monday. So that's where we're at right now. Hope you enjoyed that little quick walkthrough. And we'll switch back to this. And let's see if I can answer some of your questions. I think that was good enough. And let me have a drink. Oh, I also can show you some things I've been building. Let me switch back to the other camera. So I just made this for a customer. I didn't have it in stock, unfortunately. This is a frag rack tray that will sit in his frag tank. So this was built, it's cured, it's ready to ship on Monday. And I will just peel off the paper and polish it. This right here is a heater hanger. And I built a bunch of these the other day. So I'm actually making these the size that fits the customer now. Hi there. I know. This one here will have, you can have up to 3 heaters in there. You want to be on the show, don't you? Don't jump on me. See, I knew she was going to do that. Okay, don't claw me. Silly dog. Oh my goodness. Let me know when you're done. Anyway, I make these the right width to fit your heaters because some people's heaters are shorter. So I will make a very small one that can hold some heaters or longer ones for people with bigger tanks with bigger sumps. I love you too, Jack. Here's a power brick holder that I had to replace for a customer. He got a bad one, so I'm making him a new one. This is a Kimura FX STP bracket that will mount inside the cabinet and put those large dosing pumps on there. It's a nice durable 3/8. It's beefy. It's heavy. So I made those. So that's kind of a few examples of things that were made recently. All right. And let me get her a treat because I don't want her to go crazy. Oh, I found me some treats. Yay! Are you guys ready for Halloween? Here you go, Jack. You're like, I want them all. Oh, you took all 5. Okay, I never give her 5. I found me some treats. Look, candy corn, the best candy in the world. Let the hate start. I can feel your hate from here. It's okay. I can totally handle that. I love candy corn. All right. I like the lighting better on the iPhone, believe it or not. Okay. Alex G says, building aquariums has taught me lots of patience. Good. And Regis, I'm glad you're here and you're here for the live. And yes, I do need to change my screen from mirror to extend. Let me see if that's an option, just out of funsies. No, that's not it. I think it's something in the actual streaming software. Just curious while we're doing this. I'll mess with it later. I don't want to make you guys wait for that, but I'd like to do something to it. What it is, it's not, well, I mean, it is mirroring, but what it's doing is it is HDMI out of the computer straight into the television. So I have an 85-inch screen with your comments up there. The idea being that I could look at the camera and look at the questions right next to it, but of course I'm not doing that today, because I got this camera right here. What I could do, though, I could totally do this. Right there. Put this here. Now it looks like I'm looking at your questions almost. Almost. But you see, now we got the weird lighting again where my face is all dark. Whatever. Rasmus says, after having gone over to Kalkwasser and keep my pH between 8.0 and 8.3, the growth has exploded. but I have to chase salinity because I add more kalkwasser to keep up the pH than being evaporated. Do I have any suggestions? Add more salt? Top off with some salt? More salty water? I'm not positive. I don't know what your salinity is. Is it getting too low or is it getting too high? I'm assuming it's getting too low. Jesus says, his name is Jesus. Is there a reef in your shop? No, I do not want a reef in my shop. I intentionally said, nope, I'm going to have my shop area be humidity free, which is very important for gluing acrylic. You don't want to have humidity in here at all. So I've got an AC unit right here to my, up here, that is AC as well as heat. So it should be to keep the room the same temperature all year long, quietly, which I really love. Matter of fact, I turned it off today because the weather outside is, at the moment 61 degrees. And I walked in, I was like, oh, it's kind of cold. And it was 76. And I was like, all right, I'll just stop it from blowing right now. So I did. And I'm very happy with what I've got out here without an aquarium. And to have another aquarium sitting out in this building, it's something I have to worry about. And if there's a power outage, I got to worry. I don't want to deal with any of that. I just want the main stuff to be in the house, and I want to come out here to work and not be distracted by aquariums. I don't have to go change water back and forth to a new building or mix salt water out here. I don't want to do any of that. This building is going to just be work instead of doing it in my living room. Mike says, not to sound grim, but with the loss of Jake Adams, is there anything in place to keep your content on the web if anything were to happen to you? Actually, I talked to my son about this probably a couple of years ago, and I just said to him, what I would like is if my website would just be continually paid for, like just keep it running. And we would need someone, probably my previous webmaster would just, come out of the woodwork and offer, suddenly Jose would say, hey, I can help. And just turn off the shop area. And that way the content is still there, but people aren't trying to purchase things that I can't possibly fill. Or take it a step differently, possibly make it where my son could learn some of what I do, and who knows, he might want to start selling some of this stuff and learn more about the hobby. And who knows where things could go one day, but possibly he could follow in my footsteps and keep the thing going. Or he might say, no, I've always wanted a CNC machine. I'm going to build race cars, and I'm going to use that. And he could start his own business with my stuff. In that case, I would just like my articles and blogs to stay alive. And yeah, I agree. I would hate to see it lost. Matter of fact, when Bob Fenner died, his web media, like a week later, just went down. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. He's been gone a week and the entire website is gone. And I was upset. A lot of people were upset, and we were all like, how can we get this fixed? Because Bob was the glue that held that website together. And his sister got involved and some other people assisted, and they revived it. They got it back up. So web media still exists, which is good news. But yeah, that was a scary moment that it would just all evaporate. Decades of hard work just lost because, if you think about it, when a person dies, a lot of things turn off, including like maybe direct deposit. And, all the bills are auto-pay, the bank account closes, and anything that was auto-pay, including like web expenses, would be shut off. They wouldn't get any funds. And it's so automated, it's not even a human being that's like turn off. It's more like, didn't get the money, whoop, 0 becomes a 1 or 1 becomes a 0, and that's the end of it, and your site's just invisible. Fortunately, there's things out there like the Wayback Machine, and there's another one someone told me about recently where you can find things if they do vanish. But, yes, the best plan is to keep everything going. Hopefully, YouTube will never like delete someone's channel entirely to make it evaporate, and so the content here on YouTube would still exist. Same with Instagram, same with Facebook. You never know. I mean, that's the problem, digital versus a hardcover, hard print book that is forever, where it can be passed on and kept in a bookcase and saved. But yeah, I would like to keep my website going no matter what. So he at least knows it. Now, if he can do it, that's a whole other conversation. I'm seeing people say things like, I can't keep stylos, I can't keep Montes. Oh, nice. Hi, Crisis Films. You've changed names or you started a new channel? So glad you were able to join us. Matt suggested that maybe my unknown acro is a granulosa. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Estonian Reefer says, how's your neck and back pain? Oh, it's bad. The last couple of days have been, I had a house guest, and he says, if there's anything I can do to help, I will help. So he and I have been painting, and the entire living room has been completely finished painting. The red wall is red, the gray walls are gray, all the sheetrock patches are painted over. The guest bathroom is painted. The room that all this stuff was in for years, I emptied it out completely right before he showed up. And I went and bought a queen-size bed and put it in that room so he had somewhere to sleep besides the carpet. So there's been a lot that's happened even between these live streams. I mean, I can't even believe when I go through my phone and I see all the things I do. And someone said, man, with you, there's always a project going on. And I was like, that literally is me. I mean, that is who I am always. It's crazy. I'm waiting to get down to the comments where you're like, candy corn is gross. It's disgusting. It's so good. I should do a live stream just on candy corn, just to irritate the world. Let's talk about the heater hanger. Someone says they like my idea. So when I came up with this, I came up with it for my own tank, and I used the largest one. Now the largest one is 12 inches across. Now originally this is how I sold them. So one side is glued, and then this is loose, and the idea being that the customer could then literally put it to the length they need, put some glue in there and just glue it, and just snip off the end. When I say snip, it's gonna take some work. And it's gonna take a hacksaw, or a jigsaw, or a table saw, you know, if you happen to have one, but you can make it what you need it to be. But, you know, ideally, I like to just glue it and it's done and ready for you to go. And that way you just have something you just lift with a handle. And so here's an example of one that this is 11 inches wide instead of 12. And if the baffles are 2 inches apart, this fits between the baffles perfectly. So as the water flows over, it goes right over the heaters and into the next zone. Or if it's, you know, the baffle has water going under, the water's coming up through the heaters and going to the next zone. But the point being, the water's passing, all the water has to go around the heater to get to the next area, rather than just being against the wall of the sump where there's some possible, what can I call it, ambient temperature. You know, if it's just sitting on the edge, heat's coming off of it, but is the water moving it across the sump, or is it kind of warming up this area but not really doing a good job? But if you have it going from zone to zone, where the water dumps in, protein skimmer continues into refugium or continues to a return zone, water has to pass over the heaters. That was my goal. So I came up with this. These hold 1-inch heaters. It's made of 3/8, so it's nice and thick. You have a handle to lift it out, and you can just lay the heaters in there. It's a little bit of a trick putting it in, because you've got the heaters and you got the cords. So you have to kind of elevate that all over your sump, and you might have to kind of adjust it slightly. But then when you get in there, it just sits. It just stands on the bottom. If someone wanted to like silicone it into their tank or put glue on the bottom, they could, to make it more permanent. But the idea is just to have a place to have the heater sitting rather than just diagonally in the sump or under the skimmer. I mean, technically you could lay it down and lay heaters in there and they wouldn't touch the bottom of the sump, but I'd prefer just do this. So if you're making a sump of your own, I recommend leaving 2 inches of space, because this is 1 3/4 wide. And it'll just slide down in there perfectly and do exactly what you need, which is heat the water uniformly, which I think is really important. Terry says, Jackie loves you. I know. She's a good girl. She is adorable. Dave says, please explain oxygen surface tension for the tank with pumps. My Regal skimmer float switch engaged and I lost several fish, even though I have a MP60, MP40, the L2 and 4-way pumps. So you're thinking, okay, I think I understand your question. You're saying that the oxygen level in your tank dropped when your skimmer turned off because of a float switch. Now, the skimmer doesn't produce oxygen, even though everyone thinks that. It's full of bubbles. It must be making air. It's not. The protein skimmer is catching particulates. It's removing toxins from the water. It's, not all of them, but it's capturing dissolved organic compounds. That's the actual thing, DOX. So it's removing DOX from the water column. And if you were to take the liquid out of the skimmate and measure it, like under a microscope, you would find phytoplankton, you'd find some pods, you'd find some detritus. You might even catch the occasional worm or something that migrated through the system. The protein skimmer drives off the CO2, which the more CO2 in your aquarium, the lower the pH. That's why people are using CO2 scrubbers before the protein skimmer entirely to suck air into the skimmer that has no CO2 in it. So you're putting in better air into the protein skimmer, and then the skimmer is driving off the CO2 from the aquarium as well, and the principle being that's that. But it won't add air. So if you lost fish because your protein skimmer was off, it wasn't the skimmer. The skimmer did not give your fish life. That was not the source of all life in your aquarium. The skimmer collects waste. That's its job. So I would say the surface tension of your display tank, the top, should be rippling. Like that picture I showed of the green slimer, you could see the surface was all rippled. It wasn't smooth. I'll pull it up again because it's handy. So you can see my surface. If your surface doesn't look like that when you look at it, you need to adjust your power heads to where they are causing the surface to ripple. You want that. You want it to constantly be clean. You don't want oil slick on top. You don't want to have dust on the top. It should be crystal clear. It should always look like that. And if you've got that, you're doing a good job. You have tons. All the gear you have, I have. Except I don't use wave pumps, but I have MP60s, MP40s. I have the Abyss return pump. I've got a Vectra L2 that's a manifold pump to run equipment like the turf scrubber. It used to do the calcium reactor. It did carbon reactor. It did biopellets. It did nitrate R to remove nitrate. So all those things create flow. Your L2, you may have that turned down possibly too low to where you're not getting good water movement through the tank, possibly, from the tank down to the sump and back up again. That's important. But if everything is running so slowly that it's dead silent, that could be a lower oxygen situation. But that's me just assuming from what you wrote that your fish died because the protein skimmer turned off. And that should never happen. Shouldn't happen at all. Oh, look! Queen Anne's Reef says, don't hate on candy corn, it's the best. So anyway, feel free, Dave, to reach out to me in Club Mueller's Reef. Boom, right there. I made that for y'all. Isn't that cool? And, ask in there. Let's talk about it. Let's see pictures. Let's find out what happened. Let's talk about the fish you lost. How long, what happened. Is there any chance something else happened? Like there was a total power outage at the aquarium and it went several hours without flow? Because that is a real thing and can happen. And maybe, you know what? I'm going to hazard a guess that that's what happened. You had a power outage you're not aware of. And then the power restored, but your sump was too full. So the protein skimmer overflowed to the point that it turned itself off. And then when you walked in the room, you saw dead fish and a skimmer turned off because it's too full. I think that may be what happened to your tank. Just call me Detective Mark. Michael says, how do I get my nitrates stable? I've got them down from 45 to 22, but now they're going back up to 24. And I'm rounding these off because the decimal point doesn't matter. I got them down by doing water changes. I had to do 4 32-gallon water changes. Yeah, that sounds about right. You might be a good candidate for that nitrate R stuff that I was showing you. Let's take the camera. Let's do it. So this product right here, it's a resin, and you put it in a reactor. And the nice thing about this resin is it can be recharged over and over and over and over and over and over. You can use it many, 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 many times, like 1,000 times or some crazy thing. This jar right here, I believe, treats 100 gallons. So you could then determine how much you need for your aquarium. And it needs to be in a large enough reactor because it's super buoyant and you want it to stay at the bottom of the reactor. So if you are trying to control them and like maintain them at a certain level, this might be your trick to keep them there. That's my guess. That was fun. I like playing with new things. Ribbity Reptile says, best way to keep contaminants from the vents, etc., out of the aquariums and sump. The lids always seem to warp and I can't do anything about the vent or the aquarium placement. Are we talking about like the air conditioner vent that's on the ceiling above and like it's blowing stuff out and it's landing in your aquarium? Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about like the vents on the stand that has like a lot of salt creep and kind of messy things? In my house, I run a dehumidifier constantly. I mean, it's not 24/7, but I'm very aware of it and I tend to turn it on as much as I can think of it. And this time of year, I can turn it on like every single night as I go to sleep because I don't want to listen to it because it makes noise. So I hit the button, I go to my bedroom and go to bed. And it runs all night. And I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, enough of that. And I just hit the button and turn it off. But I can go days or maybe even a week or weeks without having to empty it because it's only pulling out a little bit of moisture out of the air because of what humidity is like in Texas this time of year. In the summer, our humidity is way higher and it will fill that thing up every 12 hours. I mean, I will turn it on and at some point, beep, 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 it's full. And I have to dump it out and put it back on and keep it running. And I can empty it twice a day, which is crazy. But that's how much humidity. But if I don't do that, all the vents or the metal louvered grills where the air blows in and even the air sucking into the air conditioner itself, they all rust. It's terrible. And while we were painting the walls, there's this huge intake that hides behind the sofa. There's, a few inches of air to blow in and it was covered in, dust like always happens because it's behind furniture. And my friend Ed was cleaning it off and I could just see all the rust. I'm like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed and annoyed and it's time to buy that metal thing again. And that's me just talking about longevity of the house. And I actually did a video talking about this exact topic. We went on for like 30 minutes. So I'm not gonna, bore you to tears. Your question is like, how do you keep it out of the tank? My question is how to keep it from even happening, keep it from destroying your home. So running a dehumidifier is the first thing to preserve your vents so they don't rot, so they won't flake off paint and drip down into your aquarium. And you might need to replace them. Now that spot that is behind my sofa, I'm gonna go ahead, I think I'm gonna order some gray acrylic because my wall is painted gray. And I'm gonna have the CNC literally make me a grate and I'm just gonna screw it on. It'll never rust again, it's made of acrylic. And it'll just suck the air through it and I can vacuum it off from time to time. And it'll just, hopefully blend in with the rest of the wall and look semi-decent compared to a white grate that looks dirty and eventually rusts and have to replace it and spend money. Now, if you have stuff falling in your tank from anywhere, anything, then I want you to have some printer paper. You know how you get a bundle of paper, it's like 500 sheets and you use it for like an inkjet printer? If you have one already and you have the paper, you already have what you need. If you don't, buy yourself a bundle of paper and just take a sheet out of the bundle and lay it on the tank and peel it off. I mean, it's that quick. You put it on and you peel it off and all the stuff will stick to it and you'll have a nice clean surface. And if your tank is like here and you have to get down to look underneath to look upward, you can put this on top, peel it off, stick your head down and look, and you can see if there's an oily slick and put it on there and then put it on here and keep blotting until the entire tank is nice and clean. And then take a power head or a lock line nozzle and point it upward to keep the water tumbling so it doesn't create anything on the surface anymore. If anything else does drip into your tank, it'll be mixed into the water column and hopefully your protein skimmer will remove it. But you definitely want to look at whatever's above your tank and make sure it doesn't drip in. So, true story happened to me with my 400-gallon aquarium years ago. I had an air conditioner, it's a bathroom fan from Braun, B-R-A-U-N, and it just sucks air out of the room constantly, all the time. And it was sitting right over the tank because that's where all my metal halides were. And all that heat was rising. I just wanted the vent to suck it out right at there. And I said, this is great. However, I noticed how stuff was accumulating on it, and I knew that stuff was eventually going to find its way. Either it fell on the pendants or it fell into the tank. And so when I redid things, I actually moved it next to the tank so that way, if anything did drip, it falls on the concrete and not in my aquarium. So you want to look and see if there's something you can do to create a deflector, so to speak, to rearrange where the output is going so it doesn't hit the tank directly, so nothing drizzles in. I hope that answers your question. Trent says, if money was no cost, would you set up a different tank? Or are you happy with the tank you have now? The tank I have now is literally my dream tank. It's what I wanted back in 2009, and I said it's my 10-year tank. And I received it in 2010. That sounds right. No, I think it was 2010 to 2011. But anyway, it's been 10 years, so now what? I am very happy with the tank I have, and I would highly recommend that you, that you find that dream tank for yourself and enjoy it. A lot of times I come across people that are thinking, oh, I really want such and such, but I can't do it now. And so they don't do anything. And that's kind of a double-edged sword with me, because I've done the same thing. Like when I wanted this is so old, such an old story, but when I wanted a really nice radio back in the day, I wouldn't buy a cheap one because I wanted my money to go to the good one. And so I was saving and saving, and I just didn't have one until I got the good one. So that attitude, I understand it, I've lived it, I've done it. But there are people that say, look, I really want this nice tank, but I don't have the room to do it. I don't have the money to do it. My job won't allow me to do it. My spouse won't permit it. Whatever the reason is. And I do tell those people, well, set up a small tank for now just to make yourself happy. And so like a buddy of mine, he's like, man, I've been designing this in Google SketchUp. It's fantastic. It's amazing. You're going to build me the sump. You're going to be doing this. You're going to help me. And I was like, okay. And he says, but I don't know when. And he says, I really miss having a saltwater tank. I said, just set up one of these all-in-ones. Just get yourself a little nano, set it up, put in a few things, and be happy. And he did. And I think it was like 9 months later, 11 months later, just out of the blue, he says, I am so happy I took your advice because I love my little tank. And it filled a niche for him. And in the meantime, he ended up moving. And then he moved again and again. And he's back in Texas now. And I was visiting him a few weeks ago. And I said to him, and he's getting married and they have a big, huge house. And there's a spot against the wall. I said, a tank would look really good right there. And he was like, oh my God, I didn't know. We were just saying, what can we put in that spot? And so the next day he called me up and he goes, I ordered the tank. Now I need all the gear. So that whole pile of stuff that I showed you guys, that's for him. And so he's all in. He's in a rent house. It's not even like his official house. He's going to be in that house for a couple of years. But this one's not that big to where he could still break it down and move it into the dream house. But back to your question to me, would I want anything different? I do have an idea for the next tank down the road. I've mentioned it several times on this channel that I would get a tank that is 1 foot off the floor and comes up maybe 3 feet tall. And that way I can walk up to it and look down from above every day. I just love the idea of a lagoon style tank, but I don't want it shallow. I want a full height tank. So if it's on a 1 foot stand with an external overflow that drains into a sump behind it, I can sit and look down on my reef. My grandson, who's growing faster than can be, but I was picturing him as a little tiny kid with his nose on the glass just staring at the fishies. I thought that'd be kind of cool if this tank was low enough and you didn't have to lift him up to show him the tank, right? And so if he could just walk up to it and look at it, I thought that would be neat. And then if you have to work in it, you can just literally, no step ladders, just lean over and clean the glass. It's that simple. And I just thought that would be super ideal. And I would make a button that would have a couple of things happen. It would stop all the flow in the tank, and it would make all the lights lift upward like 2 feet. And then after 10 minutes or so, the lights would just come back down into position, and the flow would turn on, and everything's moving. But this way, I could hand feed the fish. I could literally feed them from my hand, see them from above, see the corals from above, reach in and move that snail where it needs to be, and I wouldn't have to stand on top of anything. I wouldn't have to worry about being too close to the ceiling. It would just be really, really cool. But that's kind of my crazy notion of an idea for the next tank. So we'll see what happens one day. Oh, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. It's what I need to do, what we all need to do in light of what happened to Jake, what happened to Caitlin, what happened to Bob Fenner, all these different people that just suddenly one day they're just gone. We absolutely have to create an envelope with basically all your passwords. You know, I mean, you absolutely need that for the next person to be able to course correct, you know, to keep things on, turn things off, transfer things over. If they have no access to anything, there's, you know, no one's going to help you. The bank won't help you. The IP, you know, the hosting companies won't help you because they say, we can't, you're not on this file. And it gets lost. So if you give them the 6-digit passcode to your phone in an envelope, say, don't open this till I die. I mean, you know, I know that's a trust thing, but having that information prepared in advance, and I need to do it. I still haven't done it. I keep saying I need to do it. I'm like, well, where do I put it? Because you don't want to leave it out. What if someone breaks your house, finds the envelope, and they find everything, you know? So I did have one friend say he would hold the envelope. So I might end up just create this thing, put it all in there. And of course, you know, if it's 5 years from now, probably half the stuff in that envelope won't be true, which means you have to update it again because you've changed your passwords, you've changed your PIN codes, you've changed this, you've changed that. But the more information you can put in some kind of a archive, whether it's a thumb drive or a real envelope like I'm describing, where it just has everything, you know, where it has the keys to your lockbox, where it has keys to maybe you have a storage building, you know, or whatever. If they have this, at least they can figure it out because you're not there to answer those questions. So I highly recommend doing that. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. And thank you. He says the tank and studio look great. Yeah, they're both doing really well. So I've mentioned this before. I'm not going to be in this room every single time. I plan to flip-flop, even though I'd much rather just do it in here from now on and do green screen and show you the latest videos of the tank instead of standing in front of the actual tank, just because I have to haul everything in here and then I have to haul it all over there and then I have to haul it back in here. And it's quite the ordeal. And Jack watches me go back and forth and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, I know. I got to move everything again. So it's one of those things. Let's see. Ellery, happy Saturday to you too. Aw. James says, I'd like to thank you for your input at the Atlanta Aquarium. The behind-the-scenes adventure was great. I'm glad that you did that. I really am super glad. I thought that is just such a cool place to go and see everything. And I highly recommend it because there is, well, you saw it. You saw it. But anyone else that hasn't seen it, you need to go. I'm going to change my angle here. I like the idea that, ooh, I almost dropped my phone. That would have been bad. It can follow me. That's so cool. It's like I have a cameraman. Born to be a shooter says, is that essentially the same thing as Purigen? I don't know. I've never used Purigen, so I can't answer that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. I don't know. All I know is I used it and it worked. I'll tell you a trick, Ribbity Reptiles. The vent on the ceiling, again, if it's directly over the tank, this is a problem. But if it's anywhere adjacent, like my mom, she had a vent in the ceiling of her bedroom and she'd get very cold while she was reading a book in bed. And she got a piece of cloth, you know, like a sheer cloth like you use for privacy in a window but not block the sunlight. And it was a short piece. And it was some kind of I don't want to call it a doily, but it was like a doily, okay? And she put 2 thumbtacks and hung it up there with the fabric. And so the air would come into the room, but the fabric would block the air from blowing the cold air on her, but still got the air into the room. So it was just and so the cloth would just kind of wiggle, if that makes sense. And that was her solution. I was like, that's actually kind of brilliant because there's time, my vent is right over the television. And when I'm watching a movie, I've always got a blanket. I'm cold, but I don't want to turn off the air. You know, it's one of those things. But you may have to actually, okay, here's something you could do. If this vent literally is always raining down something, you know, something bad, you could actually take a piece of acrylic and you could put 4 little wires or even fishing line, and you could just put them hanging from the ceiling or maybe tie it somehow to the vent. Like if you've got a rectangular vent, right? You could loosen the screws just enough to put fishing line over one end and bring 2 strings down, and then a little horseshoe shape of fishing line on the other side, tighten the screws, now it's there. Put your acrylic shield in place hanging underneath, just a piece of clear acrylic with clear fishing line, tie 4 knots into 4 tiny little holes that you can drill through the acrylic, and now you've created a spatter guard, sort of like a sneeze guard at a salad bar, and anything that drips will land on the acrylic, and then once in a while wipe it off because it'll look dusty. But while it's clean, it won't look like anything. It'll be almost invisible. Maybe that'll help. Brent says candy corn is gross. I disagree. He asked, can you talk about what you feed Spock? I recently lost my NASA, who was very healthy, but within a week became emaciated. Well, there's a chance that your fish had a internal parasite that just wiped it out. I mean, that can happen, unfortunately. Spock tends to eat almost anything I give her. She's a herbivore, so mainly she's going to want things that are in the greens. Nori is the number one choice. We always say it's a dry food. Flake food works. Pellet food works. But also foods like Rod's food, which is I've been using forever. Larry's food. Krill. I've watched Spock eat that. I feed Spock banana. I've fed Spock broccoli. I mean, there's all different things you can use, but you want to do plenty of it. You know, Tang eats a lot of food and poops out a lot of poop. So there is the risk of polluting your tank trying to keep this fish well fed. And I'm only feeding my tank once a day. I used to have auto feeders going 2-3 times a day, and I stopped doing that, and I'm just feeding my frozen every single night. And I'd say Spock isn't as thick as she used to be. And in a way, I kind of wish she was thicker. So I'm trying to be more cognizant to put in nori on a more frequent basis. And I'm still not good about it. I tend to remember like twice a week. But I'd much rather put it in, I don't know, 5 times a week so that she's got that plus the frozen food at night. And, you know, when I put that food in, it's not just for her. I mean, there's 50 mouths going after that food, but she's definitely in the middle of the snowstorm trying to grab all the big stuff as quickly as she can. Luke says, can a Maxima clam change colors? All clams look different from above than they do from the side. But can a green one suddenly one day be blue? Or could a red one become orange? I don't think that's the case. There may be some kind of a thing happening between juvenile and mature clam, but normally any clam I've ever bought, I fell in love with the color. I brought it home, I put it in my tank, I had it 5 years, it was that color. It might have got deeper, richer color based on the food in the tank, you know, the amount of light in the tank for it to absorb the pigments, to absorb the zooxanthellae and have a better pigment in its mantle. But, and like one that's being baked under lights can get more pale, for example, because it's just too much light too long. But other than that, no, I don't know of any that just literally change color. And definitely don't do anything like like an octopus or a cuttlefish can, where it migrates, you know, and does that crazy complete change of look. Why? What have you come across? Tell me what you've heard. Alex says he's building his dream aquarium now. His father used to be put off. My father used to put off his hobby dreams, and now he's in his late 70s and he can't enjoy his hobbies as much as he wants to. And that is an argument I had with my dad. Many, many years ago, my father said, why do you keep buying these things? First of all, they're not going to last, and you're not saving anything for your future. And I said, because these things make me happy. And he was just like, oh, you're not thinking of the future. I'm thinking about this week. I'm thinking about next week. I mean, yes, I would buy the best. Okay, I'm going to date myself. The best VCR. I'm going to get myself. I'm going to shut up. But no, I got nice stuff. And no, it didn't last forever. And a decade later, I had to replace it, which kind of was a bummer. But I do like to have nice things around me for my day-to-day. It makes my life a lot easier. And I can't even imagine life without iPad, iMac, Apple TV, iPhone. These things, I mean, they're not just wants. They are actually, and I use them for work. So, I mean, there's a lot of need involved. But there's a lot of perks to having the stuff I have these days. And if I didn't buy all these things, yes, I'd have more money in the bank. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Sean says, what are the dimensions of your new tank? Was it a special order? When you say new tank, are you talking about Caitlin's Reef, which is a 27-gallon? That was literally off the shelf, you know, in stock. It wasn't special. And the one that I ordered from Planet Aquariums that replaces the anemone cube that I did a video about, that we filmed last January, that one is, I picked the dimensions, 24, 24, 24. But this time it had Starfire on 3 sides, the back has a vinyl back. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it has a black background. There's an external overflow box on it. There's Euro bracing on the inside because I didn't want it to be rimless. I'm sick of rimless tanks. Hate them. Hate them. There you go. Reefer Madness says you could put your information for your loved ones on a Google Drive and just update that from time to time and make sure they have access to the Google Drive. That's a good one, if you trust Google. That's the problem. Who can you trust? And what if someone hacks? That's always my concern. Paul, I don't know the answer to your question. Maybe someone here does. If not, the Neptune group will help you on Facebook. He said, I have a 65-gallon softy tank and I have a 150-gallon mixed reef. I have 3 Neptune Skies for those 2 tanks. Is there a way to have 2 lighting groups in Fusion for each tank? I don't know. Probably yes, but I don't know. I right now have 3 Sky over my 400-gallon tank, and I was in the spot where the anemone cube is going to go. I was just thinking today, do I want to upgrade that light because it's a Gen 4 Radeon with a couple of reef brights? Do I want to put a Gen 6 there? Do I want to put a Sky there? I don't know. Do I want to just keep using what I have because it's not old? When I put the 4 in there, I didn't put it when they came out. Matter of fact, I had a 2 on that tank for a long time. Then I went to a 3, and now I'm at a 4 that I feel like I only put up, I don't know what, year and a half ago. So it's a young light. And so technically I could just keep going with that one and not spend any more money, which would be nice, and get that tank operational again. But I don't know about lighting groups. I'm not positive. And Trent has a Sky over their 40-gallon tank. Yeah, nice. Your medic says, I have a 250-gallon tank and want to start some Acropora frags. I have fish and some softies. Should I put the frags on the sand bed for a few days, then midway up for a few days before placing? That's what I like to do. Whenever I get a new coral of any kind, I like to just dip it to make sure there's no pests on it. And then I want to go ahead and I want to get it, rinsed. So important that you know this. Let's say you buy 10 frags because you go crazy, right? You order online, or you're at a frag swap, or you went to Reefapalooza or wherever, and you come home with all these corals. You need to dip them all. And there's a very good chance you might make the mistake of you put them all in the dip, and then you take the first one out to deal with it while the other 9 are still soaking. Then you take the second one out while there's 8 still soaking. And then you take the third one out and there's 7 still soaking. And you spent 10 minutes with those 3. So now the original dip of 10 minutes has become 20 for the other 7 frags. Then you take that one out and there's 6 in there. And then you take the 5th one out and there's 5 in there. And now it's been 30 minutes. So you dip your corals in the prescribed amount, which might be 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And then you take them all out and you rinse them in a bucket of water, of salt water. And then you put them in a temporary holding of some more water. So you have the water for the dip, put the corals in there, you rinse them off in the next one, and then you put them in the third one, and now you can take an hour to plant them all in your tank. Now what I like to do, like the next part you said, do I put on the sand? Yes. I would take them, I would shove them down in the sand bed and let them, and get my hands off them as quickly as possible. They just went through a dip. They were blown off with a turkey baster. You picked at them with tweezers. You dipped the base in peroxide. You've done all, you handled it. So get your hands off of it and leave it alone. If you have anything in your tank that will bury them, you're gonna have to stay on top of that. Like if you have a fish that, a goby that stirs the sand, you have Neisseria snails that emerge and submerge, you've got starfish that are shoving things, you got cucumbers pooping out sand. Anything that'll bury your frags, you're gonna have to reach in with some tweezers, some tongs, and kind of straighten your coral out. Or if you want, you can get yourself something much smaller than this, obviously, but a small frag rack that has room for a few plugs, and put that down on the sand and put them there. Or you can get one that's magnetically held on the glass, which I hate in a reef tank, but you could do that. And that way you've got a way to keep the frags from toppling over, and you can kind of keep an eye on them better. But I don't like reef tanks and reef tanks. Drives me, frag tanks and reef tanks. I just feel like they are an eyesore and they don't belong. They ruin the view of what should be natural. And so if something's in there, I want it gone as quickly as possible. So if you have it in there briefly for a week, okay. If it's in there for the duration and you're like cleaning the glass and you're moving the rack to clean the glass, you're moving the rack, and then if it's there that long, it's too long. And a lot of times people that have frags on frag racks, they leave them on there so long that the coral grows onto the rack, and now the rack's covered in sophastria, and they're like, well, what do I do with the rest of this? I'm like, you should never let it get to that point. So get them in the sand, babysit them, maybe stand them up again if you need to occasionally, once or twice that week, and then start planting them in the tank where they belong. And acros, you can put them up pretty high, and it should be okay. It's not really a thing where you have to go up and then up and then up, you know, like stair steps. Not necessarily the case. You may have some that don't do well up high, and you can just keep an eye on it, and you can just see. And if it just looks miserable, you might want to take that one and move it down, but all the others might be really happy at the high point. So you always have the option of moving down, but I like the idea of taking your time moving up. And if you have the ability to like place it there and it'll stay secure for a while and you can see how it does, and if you're like, no, I think it needs more flow and more light, I can move it up. If you can, you know, if your rockwork will support moving it a couple different times over a month's period, you could do that. Let's see. Triggerfish45 says, my current tank is a 75-gallon that is doing great, and it's almost 5 months old, and I just bought my second tank, a 29-gallon BioCube, and I just got a picture text from my fish store that he got in a red-headed solar fairy wrasse. Well, congratulations. You are definitely getting into the spirit of reef keeping with multiple tank syndrome at 5 months. Be really careful that you don't go crazy and end up with like 10 tanks in 1 year. Don't do that. Just try to enjoy what you have and keep what you have clean. And also, you know, in the patience game, which we started this conversation with, that also pertains to longevity of your hobby. Some people might say, oh my God, this hobby's cost me so much money. It's because you keep buying stuff, right? You keep buying corals, you keep buying fish, and unfortunately not everything makes it, and you have to buy more to replace what didn't make it. Plus you gotta buy gear, you gotta maintain the gear, you gotta buy test kits, you gotta add, you know, new reagents, you gotta buy more salt. I mean, there's always these expenses. So sometimes it's good to stop buying anything except the absolute essentials. More salt, test kits, and that's it. I mean, fish food. So you get those three things and you don't buy anything else, and you just enjoy what you have and just appreciate what's happening in your aquarium and just let it grow and be patient and observe. You know, keep the glass nice and clean, study the corals, grab a magnifying glass and really look at them hard, take some nice pictures, you know, just enjoy it for what it is rather than I want it to be so much more. Just give it time and it'll all grow in and you'll end up with this really cool tank. You know, a lot of times people will post pictures of a new aquarium. They've got their brand new, fantastically made aquascape and it looks great. And then they plant 47 frags. And I'm like, that looks really great. I mean, you know, it does, sort of. It looks great for a trade show. It looks great for the initial picture, but long term, those 45 frags cannot possibly be 45 colonies in your care. It just doesn't work. Some are gonna grow fast, some are gonna grow slow, some are gonna sting others, some are gonna fall, some are gonna be eaten, some are gonna be pecked at, some are gonna get infested with a pest. You know, things go wrong. And invariably, you end up with 5 dominant corals out of your whole tank, but you bought 45. So try to leave space between your frags, try not to go overboard. As things are growing in, you might see something, you might see one new cool frag, like, I could put that right there. And you might get it specifically because you need that color between those 2 others to make it look better. And that's fine too, and that's a little guy. And hopefully it'll grow and fill in that spot. But like right now, my tank in 11 days, 12 days, is turning 9 years old. And I'm about to do the anniversary video, and when you see it, you're gonna see how everything is really full, and it looks like I need to do a lot of trimming and rearranging and cleaning, and I do. And I don't wanna do it before the video, because then there'll be all these spots that look like I've messed with it. You know, it'll look like I removed things, scraped things, cut things, and I don't wanna mess up the look of the tank. But as soon as the anniversary is over, then I want to go ahead and want to get in there and kind of tidy house and make room for growth and remove clutter and get things out that don't belong. So that's going to happen too. But that's all part of the patient game. See, even waiting to work on your tank, got to be patient. Got to find that perfect time. Trent says, is there a way to get your sky settings? Yes, you absolutely can. You can get those in Apex Fusion. You go to your sky, you hit the cogwheel in the right corner, and then you'll see something that looks like schemes or sheems. I think it's schemes. Touch that, and then you can type in Milev's Reef or Milev, and it'll show Milev's sky settings. You'll see everyone's settings, and you can actually import that person's settings and try it out. I know a few people have tried mine and they like it. They like the schedule I've got. And you might just choose when you want the light to start and end differently than mine, just kind of shift everything over a little bit. Or you might want more intensity here or whatever. You can adjust it all. But it could be a good starting point. You might like it. I love the way my tank looks. Yeah, I don't know Reefer Madness. Ron says, I hope you're doing well, more or less what are your phosphates at? They're crazy low. I checked a few days ago. I feel like I got bit. I checked a few days ago, and I had just done Phosphate X because I knew they were up. And they were like super low, almost invisible. I was like, wow, I really knocked them down. And it was just one treatment. I didn't put in like a ton to remove it. They came down more than expected. But today's water test Saturday. So I will find out again, and I can tell you later, because then I will have the latest test kit results. I have several things I have to do in my tank today. I got to mix up a batch of salt water, I got to do my water testing, and I got to clean the algae turf scrubber. Michael says, I can't get my blonde Nassau to eat nori, but it will eat any frozen food I put in. One of the best ways to get your fish to eat nori, can this fish eat flake food? If it eats flake food, it'll eat nori. All you have to do is, instead of putting in a big sheet of nori or make a small sheet of nori, it's still weird looking to the fish. So instead, tear off a piece, put your hand under water, and rub it back and forth, and the nori flakes will blow around the column, and you can see if the Nassau chases and eats it. Now, it may not eat it initially, but if you keep adding some nori to the regular food, like if you were to thaw some frozen food and shred some nori, like through a paper shredder kind of a thing, where it's lots of little ribbons, and put that in and let that kind of soak and sit with the other food that you use, and you pour that in a tank, that tank may start eating nori immediately and start going, oh, I like these weird green noodles, and that could work in your favor. Trevor says, I have a Radeon XR30 Generation 6 over 24-inch cube. The spread is flat, and I want to have SPS at the top and LPS and softies at the bottom, but the par isn't much different top to bottom. What's too much for the LPS and soft? Too much would be 400 par. Normally down at the sand bed, your par is going to be somewhere between 90 and 150. And as you work your way up toward the light fixture, the number should come up to like 300. A little closer to the surface should be 400 to 500. And then right at the surface, but under the water, you might measure, as much as 600 or so. But then you break the surface and it's like 8 or 1200 or some crazy high number. That would be, because it's so close to the light. And as you come down and you penetrate water, the par drops really rapidly. Now, with your situation you talked about it being flat. I didn't know if you were happy with the way the light is happening in the tank, but you can always add the XHOs from Reef Bright. They have these add-on bars you can put around the Radeon, and that'll help fill in if you have areas that you feel are not bright enough. But the G6 is supposed to have such a nice spread, it should cover the 24 by 24 inch footprint. Napton Dartfrog says, so in the envelope, you have to disclose how much you paid for so they don't sell the gem tank for $50? No, you don't have to tell them anything you don't want to tell them, but you should tell them everything they need to know to be able to keep paying the house payment, pay the electric bill, pay the water. Come on. It needs to be the things that keep the aquarium from dying, right? I'm hoping by the time something horrible happens to me, and you never know when it's going to happen, I'm hoping my house will be completely paid off, and that way there's no debt. And the only thing that'll be, expenditure for the house would be utilities and taxes. Stupid taxes. So if that was all, then maybe my son would say, you know what, I like this house. Or maybe he'll just sell the house and that's it. And everything goes. I don't know. But ideally, he should want my house because there's a fantastic CNC machine. There's this awesome workshop that he could be doing anything in. I mean, he could turn this into a little tiny skate park. I don't know. Michael says, how are you getting by with 3 skies over your 400-gallon reef? When I have 3 over my 180, I have some shadows. Well, my tank doesn't have any cross braces. When cross braces can create a shadow, and I run my lights perpendicular to the aquarium. So instead of going lengthwise with the aquarium, I'm running perpendicular for the full length of the aquarium. And I don't see any shadowing at all. And I have the reef brights up there as well because I already owned them. Before that, I had VHOs. That's just my thing. And I wasn't going to get rid of them just because I put skies on there. But I can tell you this. When the skies are at 100%, you can't tell the reef brights exist. Literally, I can go on, off, on, off, on, off, and I cannot see it. But when the skies are in a different intensity, different spectrum, whatever, I can definitely see them. When I hit the button to turn them on, the XHOs, I can see them, and it makes it big. It does fill in more. It adds some more pop, which is really nice late at night. Kedron, I think that's how you say that, said, what's the best lighting settings for my Red Sea Reefer 425 using 2 Radeon XR15s? I don't want all blue. If your XR15s are the blue version, you're going to be kind of stuck. If they're the Pro version, you have more white lights to work with and you can avoid some of the blue. If you would go to my article that is on my website, here's another link. Ta-da! Shop Milo's Reef. So milosreef.com, if you go there and type in the search engine or just type into Google Radeon Schedule Explained Milev or Milo's Reef, you'll find my article and I explain all the settings that I did with my own Radeon. Now it's dated, but the information is still accurate. So as you're reading it, you might say, well, I don't have this exact look. My app doesn't look like that. That's probably true because I did all that stuff and I documented it a long time ago. But the information in there is dead on correct. So you just have to kind of tailor it a little bit to 2022. But I think that'll help you a little bit. And yeah, so I've got this thing over my shoulder here. That is to encourage you guys, please do buy things from Milo's Reef because it helps me continue to eat, feed my dog, and feed my fish. And I do appreciate it when I can eat. And I know they do too. Andrew says, what's the smallest tank you'd say is acceptable for a nano type tank? I have a 90-gallon reef, but I'm waiting until spring to set it up. Oh, so you're saying what size could you put in your room instead? A 29-gallon, a 24-gallon, an 18, a 27, a 16. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I even found this little tiny fluval that, I don't know, I have just been attracted to for some time. It's a 13.5-gallon tank. It's got all-in-one, and they even make a skimmer that fits the end compartment. And they did something to the lid where you break out a notch and the collection cup can come out through the thing. And I like it. Now, I don't know everything about it. I know that you can just touch the light, just touch it, and it'll change color or turn on off. Now, I don't know if that means you can't program it to turn on and off automatically each day with a timer, but I love that you can just touch it and just make a change. Don't have to open an app, don't have to toggle a button. I mean, it just looks like you're just touching the light. It's neat, okay? I like that kind of stuff. And I just really like to set up that little tank somewhere. I don't even know what to put in it, but I kind of want to get it. And that might be too small. You might say, that's crazy. But it just depends what you're putting in there. If you put in something adorable, it may be the perfect little tank to make yourself happy, super easy to maintain, doesn't take much to top off. But the smaller the tank, the harder it is to maintain good water quality. The bigger the water volume, obviously, the more forgiveness you'll get. So, a small tank, if you don't top it off, the salinity rises up really fast. You don't top off for 3 days in a row, it's super salty. And then if you dump in a lot of water, you're dumping in a ton of water, and you can see the oil and water effect how it finally migrates and mixes in completely, and now your salinity is stabilized again, but that wasn't good for the livestock. So my rule is always, if you're manually topping off a tank, every time you put food in the tank, put it in the top off. So, like, I had a little tiny tank on my kitchen counter for a long time, well, a long time, a short time. It really was short. It was probably 6 to 9 months, and it held 3 gallons of water. And I topped off twice a day. I would just go over that. I had a little 20-ounce bottle of RODI water, and I went bloop, bloop. And then, that evening, a little bit more. I just maintained the same water line so the salinity didn't vary. I had zoanthids in there. I had a seahorse in there. I had a tiny Maxima clam. I had a dendro in there. I mean, I just had some cool stuff in there. And the water changes were super easy. It was a little tiny cube. I took airline tubing and siphoned it into a bucket on the floor of the kitchen. And then I took water from the reef to refill the tank. So nice. But you want to make sure you have something that you are comfortable with that will fit your environment for now until you can get that nicer tank you're thinking about getting later on. Oh, this is good. Alex says, I go through cycles with my joy of the hobby at times from high highs to low lows. Balancing those feelings, if you can, has helped me become more patient as a reef keeper. Yeah, that's good. And, when I mentioned earlier, just taking the time to appreciate your tank, you may see things that really irritate you. Well, then remove those things. If you see dead skeletons, if you see empty snail shells, remove them. Clean the garden, okay? Just tweezer them out. When I say tweezer, I'm not talking about tweezers. I'm talking about forceps, but they're like giant tweezers, okay? It just sounds logical to say tweezer. I don't know why. Forceps makes me think of a surgeon, okay? But anyway, tweezer these things out, make it clean, and you can appreciate all the things that are alive and looking nice in your tank. And I think it helps to fill that need that will help you stay patient, more patient, because you're not in a hurry to do something. You're just kind of tidying up what you own. You're not spending any money. You're not losing any money. You're not stressing about money. You're just keeping your babies happy. Okay, Ron, that makes sense. And mine has been that. So, you asked me earlier about phosphates. He says his are at 0.30 right now, but he'd like to bring them down to 0.2. That's fine. You can do that. My tank typically ranges between 0.1 and 0.75. That's usually, it's a big range. And it's just a matter of it's 0.1, I'm like, eh. And then it's 0.25, I'm like, eh. And then it's 0.39, I'm like, eh. And then the number just keeps growing. And then finally it's like, oh, okay, it's too high. I got to deal with this. But because my tank's nitrates have continued to be so high, I'm definitely letting the phosphate be up there. But I felt like it was a little bit higher than I needed it to be. Let me knock it down. And it really knocked it down. But that was a few days ago. So I got to see where the numbers are. It might have just been a false test result because I did it, I don't know, an hour and a half after I did phosphate RX or a few hours later. And I just want to see where we're at. Jason says, you test phosphate with a NIOS test kit, correct? No. I use the ELOS test kit. I actually bought 3 NIOS kits, and I don't think I even opened the box. I was planning to do something, never got around to it, and I'm sure they're all expired. They probably still exist in my home, but they probably need to be tossed. I'm going to assume that they've expired. And Jason, you said, have I tested other brands for verification? So I use the ELOS test kit. I find it to be super easy. Salifert is also easy, okay? So either of those two, fantastic. And I stock both of those. So if that's something any of you are looking for a phosphate test kit, look, they're right there. Nope, they're right there. But the phosphate RX, the phosphate test kit from ELOS, 10 milliliters of water, 2 drops of A, 2 drops of B, smart stir for 30 seconds, look at the color. It's that easy. Clear is good, dark blue is bad. It's just so easy. I love that. I have no fear of testing phosphate. I have no fear of phosphate in general. And when I need to knock it down, I use phosphate RX. And I hadn't done phosphate RX in probably 2 months. And that's why last week I just put some in. And Salifert, I think it's 4 drops, shake the vial for 10 seconds, put in a scoop, and then shake it for 30 or something like that. I haven't used that one in forever, but I have it in inventory because some people like Salifert. I've not used NIO, so I can't answer it. But then you said, have you tried against anything else? Well, when I send off my ICP test, they give me the phosphate measurement they have, and I can literally compare that number to what my numbers are myself, and I've been in the same wheelhouse every single time. So that's my verification, ICP. Yeah, the Fluval Evo. I just like that tank. Michael says, so I can get by with 3 skies over a 300 gallon. Absolutely. He says, I'm going to upgrade one day and I was worried I'd have to get 3 more. No, you don't need wall-to-wall lights over your tank. My tank, my 400 gallon is 7 feet by 3 feet by 30 inches tall. And I had 3 metal halides on top. I took down the 3 metal halides and I put up 3 sky. And it spread even better than the metal halide. I was very happy with it. Where I felt like if I went with radions, I probably would have needed 6 or possibly 8 of those, and I definitely didn't want to do that. It's not reef tongs, Andrea. That sounds weird. It's tweezers, big tweezers. Oh, sorry about that. I'm talking too loud. Let's see if I can. Now that we've been talking so long, let me adjust this down. Too late. No, it's me. I'm overblowing it. I can even see a little red light flashing from time to time. It's my fault. And I hid all of my controls when I was trying to do the other thing earlier in the show, so I can't even see my normal monitors I look at. My bad, I apologize. Audio. Sound levels, there we go. All right, so it's there. That looks okay there. Anyway, I am sorry about that. Wish you'd told me an hour ago. Oh, I do want to mention, because this happened to a friend of mine, I got a text this morning. He said, I use Phosphate RX and today my yellow tang is dead. And he said, that's weird, right? And I was like, no, yellow tangs and phosphate RX, well, yellow tangs and lanthanum chloride do not mix. And this has been a known thing for 15 years. This is not some specific thing to Phosphate RX or any other brand. Whatever you use to lower phosphate in the lanthanum chloride brand of products, whether it's Brightwell, Two Little Fishies, Blue Life USA, the stuff from the pool supply, those can they can kill yellow tangs. They'll gasp and they can die. So the solution has always been to buffer your alkalinity 20 minutes before you treat the tank, or treat with less of the product so you're bringing down the phosphates more gradually. So rather than putting in full strength, the full dose, do half a dose, wait a day or two, do the other half of the dose, and that way you don't have a sudden spike and you don't affect them. I have a yellow tang in my reef that I've had for, I think, 7 years. It's been through Phosphate RX probably 50 times. Still swimming, still happy, still eating, still very active. So did I just get lucky 50 times in a row? Do I not overdose Phosphate RX? I don't know what the thing is. I've always tried. Matter of fact, I have a video about dosing Phosphate RX where I warn about this. And I tell people it, and I say, I don't know why some people lose a fish when others don't. It's not guaranteed you'll lose a yellow tang if you use a Phosban L or Sea Clear or Brightwell Phosphate E, or if you use Blue Life Phosphate RX. But it is possible. But I have dosed the heck out of my tank in the past where I was like, that's it. And I just put in a whole bunch, right? And my fish were swimming around, and they weren't gasping, they weren't struggling, they weren't on the sand bed. So I can't really explain necessarily why it is that they sometimes succumb to death, but it does happen. Larry said, thank you for sharing your website. I haven't seen it since 2008. Wow. I'm amazed at all the knowledge you've included on there. I'll research the homemade food mic again. Anyway, oh, the mix? Yes. That makes sense. That's actually another dated thing. It might be time to make some fresh articles. I don't know. But I do want to do some, I've been really leaning into YouTube and putting more and more content up here. I continue to add blogs to the website, once or twice a month. So there's usually some kind of new thing there to enjoy. I am going to be adding another feature to the website probably in spring of next year. So that would be nice to look forward to. So you have things coming up. Terry says, I have 36-inch tweezers for feeding my snakes. Ew. There you go. Ellery says, I set up my Fluval Evo 13.5, but I had it set up with an auto water changer with my main system to minimize carrying buckets. I love that. I think that's a great idea. That's awesome. All right, I think we will wrap up. We've been talking for how long? Where's the clock? I don't even see the clock. Usually there's a clock on here. Weird. Oh, it must be hiding because I turned everything off. I have no idea how long we've been streaming, but It's 4 o'clock now. We've probably been at it for almost 2 hours. Remember, today is, let's switch cameras. Remember, today is water test Saturday. We definitely want to test our parameters to verify our alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, nitrate, phosphate. If you can, potassium. Check your salinity, check your temperature, look at your curve throughout the week. If you have any kind of graphing happening with controllers like the Apex or the Hydros or any other controller you have, to make sure your tank isn't getting too cold at night or getting too hot during the daytime or on the weekends or during the work hours. It's really important that we have consistent numbers day in, day out, week after week, month after month, year after year. The more stable your tank is, the more better your tank will be for the long haul. And the more unstable it is, the more weird things happen, like anemone splitting left and right all the time. That's because the tank isn't stable enough. If it's super stable, an anemone might split once or twice a year, where if you have 20 or 30 splits in a year, it's the way you're taking care of your tank, it's the way you're doing your water changes, it's not right. So I want to make sure we get all those things correct, so that way everything stays nice and healthy and can grow and be pretty, so you can show it off in Club Miller's Reef. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great week, and have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you guys again next Saturday.